Time is now 6:30. I'd like to call this meeting of the Mattawan Aberdeen Regional School District Board of Education to order. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or agreed upon. In accordance with the provision of this act, the Mattawan Aberdeen Regional School District Board of Education advertised this meeting on September 9th, 2020 in the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger. This notice was sent to the municipal clerks of the Borough of Mattawan and Township of Aberdeen and the Mattawan Aberdeen Public Library. This notice was also placed on the district's website. Can you take roll call, please, Mr. Blair?
Ms. Ahern? Here. Ms. Escalde?
Here.
Ms. Greenhand? Ms. Martinez?
Here.
Ms. Malzone? Here. Ms. Osborne?
Here.
Ms. Whalen? Ms. Moore?
Here.
Ms. Friedman?
Here.
Yep.
Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is our minutes. We'll do these all together. Can I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the CAL meeting on October 12th, 2020, as well as the executive minutes of October 12th, 2020, regular action meeting minutes from October 26th, 2020, and the executive meeting minutes from October 26th. Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll motion. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Be it resolved that a closed session be convened for the purpose of discussing privacy, personnel, and legal matters. The subject matter of these discussions will be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality subsides. Although the board cannot guarantee it, the length of the executive session is estimated to be approximately 30 minutes, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene and proceed with business. Action will take place. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are now in executive session. Can I get a motion and a second to open back up to public session?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, time is now 7:12. So now it's time for the board president's report, and I want to start off by saying good evening, everybody. This week is Thanksgiving, and it has been a very trying year. At times it seems that it's very difficult to find those things that we can be truly thankful for. And I've given a lot of reflection to that over the last 7 months, but a lot more recently. And I think it's important that we start to list those things that we have as a district, as a community, to be very thankful for. These 7-8 months have been extremely difficult for people on a personal level. They've lost people who they love, and I am thankful for the memories I have of people who I've lost. I am thankful for those who have managed to survive and thrive in this environment. I am very thankful that I live in a community that has managed to, I believe, thrive in this environment. I've watched Mattawan and Aberdeen both continue to host recreational activities, continuing with that community, whether it was concerts back in the summer with Aberdeen, or whether it's a virtual turkey trot in Mattawan, or lakeside dining by the park. It gives that support that I think we've all needed to really say we can and we will get through this. I am so thankful that our kids were able to have seasons. Soccer season, Freshmen were able to play soccer as a high school kid for the first time, and they did well. And it was, memories were made, and same with JV, and same with varsity. Those seasons were able to be had and completed. Football suffered some dings, but they played. They got on that field, and they played with the tenacity and the character that made us all proud as a district. And I'm so grateful that we were able to get them on the field. I'm thankful for those coaches who never gave up. I'm thankful for those teachers who never gave up, for the dance coach who made sure that everybody knew their routine so that they could do a complete halftime show, which that memory was made. And I'm thankful our kids have that memory. I'm thankful that our cheerleaders got to cheer, our band got to play, our drum major got to lead. These have been major milestones in those kids' lives. Seniors were able to have a first day of senior year in high school, and freshmen were able to have their first day in high school, and kindergartners were able to have their first day of school. Everybody had their memories, and memories were made despite the environment that we're in. And I'm really thankful that we have had the support, like I said, of the coaches who, especially looking at how football went, the coaches never gave up on our boys, not once. And I'm really proud to be in a district with that kind of support. As everyone is aware, the uptick in cases in our town, in our state, has been steadily increasing. It's not a secret that there have been children who are now affected almost on a regular basis. We've all probably driven up and down 34, and it's not clear anymore which line is longer, the one for the Starbucks drive-thru or the one for the Medi Center on 34 with people lining up for tests. We have always said as a board and as a district that what we would do is always be first and foremost the safety and security of our children, and that still is the forefront of our decision making. We have been able to make virtual learning a space in which our staff has been able to think creatively and thrive in, and our students, although not always ideal, are able to acclimate it. And it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was, and it will continue to improve. But unfortunately, with all of the uptick, it is no longer safe to keep our doors open past Thanksgiving. So it is with the support and consensus of this board, and Dr. Michael will go in more detail on it, but the district will be going all virtual starting Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning, and Monday essentially, since Thursday is break. I know this probably is not a shock. We've all been seeing it, sort of the writing on the walls with districts around us closing their doors. It is our hope and our desire to obviously open up as soon as it is safe to do so, and in a manner that keeps our children and our staff safe. But again, I am very thankful and very grateful for our community, for our teachers, and for our amazing students who have persevered. And we will get through this. We will get through this together. The holidays are coming up, and it is so important right now, more than ever, to remember those things that we are thankful for. Because there are many of them, many more things to be thankful for at this point. With that, I would wish everybody a wonderful, happy Thanksgiving, and a wonderful holiday if I don't see you at the next meeting. Dr. Plato?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This was an extremely difficult decision to make because all of us here, all of us at home, wanted to stay open and keep continuing to move forward. However, over the last 11 weeks, we've seen a statewide rise from a few hundred cases a day to approximately 4,000 cases a day and growing. Throughout this time, the procedures and protocols we put into place have mitigated school-based spread. Unfortunately, the last 2 weeks have led to an exponential increase in contact tracing, quarantining, and positive cases in our school community. So to put things in perspective, approximately right now, we have over 60 staff, meaning administrators, bus drivers, secretaries, teachers, custodians that are on quarantine right now, coupled with over 70 of our students. This has made it virtually extremely difficult to move forward at this point. So out of a great respect to the health and safety of our students, staff, and school community, we've determined the need to temporarily pause our hybrid instruction and move to full remote learning to help mitigate the possibility of additional spread, not only in our school community, but also in the greater community of Matawan and Aberdeen. All pre-K to 12 students will transition to full remote instruction effective Monday, November 30th. Students and staff will transition back to the hybrid model on Tuesday, January 19th. Specifics will follow tomorrow in a letter to the community. And we are going to continue to move forward. However, unfortunately, at this time, we are going to shift to remote learning. And having said that, I would pass it over to Mr. Weedman.
Thank you, Dr. Hargett. To the board, I'm going to present two HIB-related reports. The first one is the SSDS and HIB reporting for report period number 2. So twice a year, we're required to report out to the board the district data related to student safety and HIV. This is for report period 2. This is an update which covers January 1st to June 30th, 2020. The data includes the number of incidents plus alleged and confirmed HIB cases, which have been previously shared with the board each month. The data is then submitted to the Department of Education, and then is tabulated for the district, and that report has been shared out with the board previously. So this report actually transitions to the second report. So the data that comes from report number 1 helps us with the second report that I'm going to share with the board, which is our 2019-2020 self-assessment review. So annually, the district is required to complete a self-assessment on HIB practices and procedures. Each of the 7 buildings completes a draft of the assessment. Then the information comes to me, I tabulate the data, and report the draft scores to the Department of Education. The results are published and made public in late spring or early summer. This is the self-assessment draft for the 2019-2020 school year. The purpose of the report tonight is to share with the board that the required steps in the process are complete at the district level, and we are ready to submit to the Department of Education. I will then follow up with the board later this year once those school reports have been confirmed and then published out to the public. So that completes my HIV report.
Thank you. Ms. Unin, I see you up there, and it is time for your report. So thank you.
Thank you. So I do have a few updates on a few of our schools. So at the high school currently, through the month, we, as the civic leaders, have partnered with Peer Leadership and National Honor Society, and we've been running a virtual Thanksgiving food drive. And all donations are made in cash or check, and the fundraiser is still running to help the families in need throughout the holiday season. And on our Veterans Day, several organizations throughout the high school, including the English Honor Society, Key Club, Civic Leadership, participated in Operation Gratitude, which basically we all wrote letters to veterans, thanking them and telling them how much we appreciate their sacrifices and hard work, as well as asking them questions about everything that they've gone through during their service. Civic Leadership also partnered with Peer Leadership to host another fundraiser to help donate needs and Christmas gifts to children and families in our community during the holiday season. And the National Honor Society announced its newest executive board members. The president of the National Honor Society is Gianna Aiello. The vice president of public relations is Maya McFadden. The vice president of service is John Vigala. And the NHS secretary is Sophia Valenza. Congratulations to our National Honor Society officers. In the middle school, they also held elections for their student council. just a message from Mr. Wells. The election was held November 20th, and it was a little bit different this year since everyone was virtual. So 20 students across the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade participated, and instead of giving their speeches like they would in the auditorium, they made a digital poster slideshow telling everyone a little bit about themselves and what they have to bring to their school community. And while making their pre-recorded videos, the candidates learned so much about the importance of their tone of voice, their volume, their practice, camera presence, and most importantly, how to communicate with other people through the virtual world. So the process was fun, but also a little bit tedious, but in the end, we got our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade president, vice president, secretaries, and treasurers. So the 6th grade president is Christina Test. The 6th grade co-vice presidents are Avery Garr and Ryan Zella. The 6th grade co-secretaries are Madeline Gray and Allison Gray. In 7th grade, the president is Caitlin Frappier, and the vice president is Charlotte Wells. And the 8th graders, president, are Praket Trivedi, and the 8th grade vice president is Jaden Hyman. The 8th grade secretary is Shreya Deshpande, and the 8th grade treasurer is Michael Juarez Lopez. So congratulations to the officers as well. And then at Lloyd Road, the PTO was providing the 5th graders with a new set of member stars that navels through the use of scholastic points. And Mr. Jarabek wanted to congratulate the Lloyd Road art teacher, Miss Daisy Orr, on her upcoming retirement on November 30th. And he wants to thank you all for your dedication to the students. Miss Daisy Orr for her dedication to her students over her 27-year career. As one of her students in the past, she really has been very sweet, and she brought the artists out in many of those. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to those students in their newly elected roles. With that, I would ask Mr. Bombardier to take us through
Part A, there's no travel, and for Part B, there's been no addition since the committee of the whole, and that's all for curriculum instruction.
Can I get a motion and a second to accept the curriculum and instruction agenda?
I'll motion. I'll second.
Does anybody have any questions or comments concerning the curriculum and instruction agenda? Seeing none, Ms. Perez, can you take us through special services?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Under item number 1, we have one additional item in red. We're asking for board approval for the following provider for the 2020-21 school year on an as-needed basis, Therapy Travelers. They are related service providers, LBTCs, RN, RBT. All hourly rates are listed, and with the effective dates. This is should we need additional staff to provide services for our students. Under item number 3 in red, we're asking for board approval for bedside instruction for the following students listed. The cost is listed along with their effective dates, and the costs are reflected on the bottom of page 1. That concludes special services. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Can I get a motion and a second to accept special services agenda?
I'll motion. I'll second.
Any comments or questions concerning special services from any board member? Seeing none, Mr. Liebman, can you take us through personnel, please?
Yes, good evening again. First addition to the personnel agenda starts under section B, leave of absence. At the bottom of page 1, is the first meeting in red. Leave of absence additions continue on page 2 of 7. Under section C, appointments number 1, new hires for 2020-21 school year. Names have been listed in red at the bottom of page 2. This continues to the top of page 3 of 7. No changes to item number 2. The next set of changes. Item number 3, curriculum instruction for 2021 school year. This is for curriculum instruction partners, which begins at the bottom of page 3. The additions continue on the top of page 4 of 7. The next set of changes are on page 5 of 7. This is item number 4, extracurricular activities for the 2021 school year. This is all subject to the remote learning MOA. We have names listed under athletic activities, non-athletic activities, and Paralympic activities that have been added since the last meeting. Continuing on, page 6, item number 5, home instruction for the 2021 school year. 1 student listed with respect to courses, teachers, and number of hours per week. Item number 6, staff rate changes for 2021. The next set of changes actually begins on the top of page 7 of 7 with location change and instructional hours increased. Item number 7, volunteers for 2021. 1 additional name for volunteer for high school wrestling. Under section D, other, the next set of changes is letter C. We're recommending the board the appointment of kids specialists at the middle school for the 2021 school year. This is due to retirement of the previous academic specialists. Item D is registered behavioral technician stipend. We're adding an additional name and stipend amount for the 2021 school year. That concludes the personnel agenda.
Can I get a motion and a second to accept the personnel agenda?
I'll motion. I'll second.
Are there any questions or comments from the board on the personnel agenda? Seeing none, should we make you take us through policy?
Yes. We're recommending to the board several different policies this evening. So policy number 7510, this is policy and regulation 7510, use of school facilities. This is for a second read and adoption this evening. Policy 1648, which is the restart and recovery plan, additions were made for that. This is a first reading this evening. And policy 1698.03, restart and recovery plan, full-time remote instruction. This is also a first reading for this evening. That concludes the policy agenda.
Can I get a motion and a second to accept the policy agenda?
I'll motion. I'll second.
Are there any comments or questions from board members concerning policy? I have one comment. Do you mind if I go first, Mrs. Cole? In regards to the facilities policy agenda, it's my understanding that the, I'm going to mess this up, SIAA has moved winter sports to March 3rd for the most part. It is my belief that what we have been trying to do here is adjust to the times with our facilities policy. So I would make a motion to table the policy, regulation, and policy concerning facilities until that last meeting in February, whenever that is, so that it's in place when those sports are able to begin again. Okay. So we can put it temporarily, I guess, in the second meeting in January, in case we need to accommodate practices. Does anybody second that motion?
I'll second. Oh.
So the motion on the table, the motion is to table policy 7510 until the second reading in January, as listed by Ms. Friedman. Start off with Mr. Aver.
Yes.
Ms. Ascoli.
Yes.
Ms. Martinez.
Yes.
Ms. Montone.
Yes.
Ms. Osborne.
Yes.
Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Ms. Friedman.
Yes.
Thank you.
The only other comment I'd like to make in regards to the policy agenda is that the restart and recovery plan, obviously I think it's important to get this down and get this right so that when we come back from the holidays and we're ready to up and run and get back on our feet and get kids back in. So to me that's important to move forward. Mrs. Foley, did you have a comment or question?
Yeah, just a comment. On the facility agreement, I just wanted to say thank you for incorporating all the feedback that we've been discussing in the past several meetings. So.
Okay, so last but not least, in very many ways, Mr. Ferreira, it is your finance agenda that you take us through, and before you do that, since I can change things, I shall. I wanted to thank you personally, professionally. You have been here as I have assumed the seat. You have saved me on many occasions from sounding really stupid, and I genuinely appreciate that. Although you were too far away to kick me under the table when I'm about to say something wrong, I do appreciate the times that you did. Your work here has been very, very much so appreciated. I will miss you. I think I speak for the board when I say we will all miss you. And thank you very much for your service that you've done here. And I wish you lots of luck and fortune. I don't know that you'll ever work with a board as amazing as this one, but by all means, give it a shot. But I wish you lots of luck and congratulations. And you can take us to finance one last time, sir.
Thank you. Good evening again, Ms. Friedman. Thank you. It's been my pleasure to be part of the Husky community, and I have plenty of very fond memories. And anything that I could do going forward, it would be my pleasure. So moving on to finance, starting off on page 2 of 3. Resolutions 4 and 5 are just procedural as part of the transition for the interim SBA to be authorized signer and to conduct business. Number 6, this is the approval of the ESSA carryover. It's a little bit different from the typical language, just in light of the state not necessarily requiring amendments to be filed. Mr. Pollacker's office prepared the final expenditure reports, and the intention is to use those funds for this current year. Number 7, this is a previous use, the board previously approved the use of the carryover funds from the keys for the purposes of the FY 21 budget and to continue the program. And this is just a breakdown of the anticipated budget for the remainder of the year. Number 8 is a donation by the Louisville PTO. And number 9 is an addendum for changes in substitute rates previously discussed with the board. And that concludes finance.
Can I get a motion and a second to accept the finance agenda?
I'll motion. I'll second.
Any questions or comments in regards to the finance agenda? Seeing none. At this time, I would welcome any comments relating to agenda items. We have 2 people in the room here. Would either of you like comment on the agenda items?
Good evening, everybody. Michael Mills here. Allison, I'm not clear on something, and help me understand this, please. We keep deferring the discussion on policy, the facilities policy. Well, let me back up a little bit and say that my overall concern and my messaging to most of the community groups that want to use the facilities is now is not the right time to have group activities. And several of us have discussed it and definitely pushed out our dates until we see some significant change in the way the COVID-19 cases either hopefully start to drop off and or the remedies and or vaccines that become available. But that said, planning and trying to move towards incorporating community activities into the school facilities is somewhat different than NJSIAA activities. And it's not clear to me, I understand that why we should be having those discussions as well, not just about the NJSIAA activities. And so it seems to me that we should be at least reviewing the policies so we understand where the conflicts are and discussing them. And so we can see how the community activities, when it becomes plausible to resume them, so that's the caveat, how we can do that. And I'm really not hearing that because we keep on tabling the discussion. And it seems to me at some point we should simply review what it is that we're concerned about, what the changes are to those documents, and then see how they marry into everything else. And they're 2 different subjects is the point that I'm trying to make.
They are 2 different subjects that are absolutely symbiotic in many respects. The rationale for not approving a policy tonight when things seem to be dramatically changing over the next day, if not months. So looking at the direction of what our main focus is as a school district, which is those high school sports, those kids, getting them back into the buildings. The reality is, if our kids are not in these buildings for sports and the like, it is not the right time now, but just because it's not on the agenda does not mean that this board or that our facilities director or administration doesn't continue to work towards and understand that that is a facet of this school district and something that will be addressed, and that should be done. We put it on in January knowing that these sports are set to start, it seems the majority of them, in March, just for that occasion to make sure. I'm not going to keep putting it on for 2 weeks when I know very little is going to happen because it shouldn't, because it's important to make sure that we have all the information before we make a policy that affects the way that this school runs and can affect the health and safety of these kids, as well as the community at large. So that is why it is tabled, but that just because it is tabled does not mean that we just ignore it, throw it in the garbage so we can pick it up for the first time in January. As new information comes out, it's fed to the board. As the board gets it, we then continue the conversation and continue to amend that Google Doc where this policy lives, where we keep adding changes as information goes. So I understand that that is probably not the answer that you're looking for, but it is still being worked on.
Right, but the point that I'm trying to still make is there's a differentiation between community activities. And by the way, I want to include not just in community activities, any kind of extra, sports, adult sports and things like that. We're also talking about, and other people can talk to, the basketball programs and things like that that run in the evening hours for kids as well. But I'm also talking about extracurricular activities. Like there was a woman here who was last week. It was her daughter was in some kind of a chorus organization or group, and since the out of school activities or after school activities occur, I think we can probably at some time in the future have them occur safely, even if NJSIAA isn't ready to allow student sports, competitive sports, inter-school sports. That's where I'm confused, and that's where I think that there needs to be additional discussion on that.
So
the two are not related.
This is where I think that this is going to be left for now, and I agree with you. There are two very big differences between what you speak of as well as what the organization that you represent, as well as from the high school sports. One of those differences is that those high school sports are our priority. The extracurricular clubs, whether it's yearbook, cooking, drawing, ceramics, woodworking, key club, chorus, band, winter guard, you name it, those are our priorities. That is a major difference, and that is where our focus is. And before we can consider your organization and how it fits in, we must first put those pieces of the puzzle together. And that is what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that we will continue to look at the data that we get, the law, the executive orders that we get, the guidance from ISAA. We will continue to do all of that and continue to work on our policy between now and the January meeting, which is why it hasn't been posted, because it's still a living, breathing document that we continue to change as a board. And we will continue to do that and revisit it again at the end of January. But as of now, that is where we're leaving that discussion. If there is a time where something dramatically changes, if it were next week, and the sun came out and we were able to start as normal, absolutely we'd put it right back on the table. If something changes in that fashion, it would be right there. But right now, our priority is all of those extracurricular activities and getting these kids back in this building as quickly as possible in every facet.
Okay, I'm going to allow anybody else that wants to talk, and I'm going to just stop right here for the moment. But the point that I'm trying to make is that we're making decisions and discussions around things that are not totally correlated. And even though I understand the desire to get the kids back into the school athletics, that doesn't mean that in parallel with that, we can't also discuss the community events. And again, one should not impact the other necessarily. We're making assumptions here, and I want to try to get back into the science of this and do some planning around that.
And-
So I'm now going to let somebody else get involved, or anybody else that wants to.
Hi, it's Michael Scott. And I guess the point that gets to me, and I know I traded an email with you, Allison, but the thing that I'm looking at is that how you set up for the school, how you set up for the kids in the school, the clubs and stuff like that. It would be the same as how you need to set up to look at managing the risk for also any adult activities that are going on. The risk associated with them, how you take care of that, how you manage it, is the same. All right, so when you do it for one, you're also doing it for the other. So I think that's in my mind where I think if we run them together, all right, it'll make things easier because what you do for one, the same rules would apply to the other.
And I absolutely, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I agree with you. I think they're symbiotic. I think they're absolutely related to each other, which is why I'm using the NJISA as guidance. I'll never get that right, but that's why I'm using that as our guidance for our timeline. Because they absolutely are the same, but they are different in terms of priority. And that's why the kids are coming first in terms of the district obligations, and then the kids come first in terms of the rec obligations. So when I say district obligations, I'm talking competitive sports. I'm talking extracurricular activities or clubs like the ones that I mentioned. Those come first. I think that the next priority would be, and we have the whole board here, and we've got time for now consideration as to how we're all going to schedule this. But the second, in my opinion, would be the rec sports that center around kids, because that feeds into those high school programs, right? And that competitiveness, and then the community. And those are the priorities. So I agree with you. I think that they are, and they both will continue to be worked on by this board and the administration during this break. And the timeline, it was not, some people have asked in the past where I get dates or numbers from. It's not willy-nilly. I got it from using when the winter sports were delayed too. And I agree that we should have something in place so that we can welcome back our kids and then our adult community back into this building in a safe way, which seems to be looking at that particular guideline sometime in March, but we're scheduling this pickup in conversation the end of January.
So, and I guess one of the things that I'm confused about, and I haven't been involved with this as long as Michael has been, but it appears that the communications back and forth, or at least between the board and with us, to kind of understand what you're looking at, what your questions and concerns are in relation to how we're looking at things, and what our questions and concerns are, and what we're trying to do to make this safe. There doesn't seem to be a lot of that back and forth. I have not seen anything come back yet to say anything about the plan, the template that Michael had put together for how we were looking to try to make everything safe in the school for everybody, not only adults, but the kids, the staff, everybody that's there. And those are some of the things here that are a little confusing because, you said you have a plan that you're working on, but how does that correspond to the template that has been put together, which would give us a template that we could all use?
Well, and this is where the board, as the elected body of both towns, this is our job. This is what we do. I've been part of the transportation committee. I know Ms. Moore has. I know Ms. Martinez has been part of committees in the past, Mr. Martona. Those are very time consuming. And right now, our energies as a board has been focused on these policies, getting these kids back here. And that's where it's been. So I understand that there is, what you would like is for me to form an ad hoc committee in order to work on this particular problem. But simply put, it's just not the priority right now. And if we are freed up with our resources as board members, who also have full-time jobs and children and other things going on in our lives, as well as the main focus of being on the board, we'll be reaching back to you. I did communicate some of the questions that I had in regards to that first plan. It wasn't my question. I sent the emails out to the board fed the questions to me, and I fed them back to Mr. Mills. But right now, it's just not, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen now. The discussion is not going to happen now. And if there is time before that January date, maybe we can make it happen then. I would respectfully ask that maybe you start this conversation after the new year, the beginning of January. Because as you can see, there is a ton of stuff going on right now. And education right now has to be at our forefront. And that's where it is. So I appreciate the time and the effort and the fact that you want to give back to this community by running these organizations. And I think it's wonderful. And I don't want to minimize the importance of it. But right now, that's just not where our priority is. There are many different things that we have to consider first. And that's where our energies are. With that, I would see, are there any other questions? Oh, so I apologize, I was supposed to read this at the beginning. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public participation. As it's a public meetings, that's what happens when you can't kick me. During the COVID-19 public health emergency, public participation will be accepted via the following means: via email to the address publiccomments@mars.org, up until an hour prior to the start of the board meeting, in person, as we've just seen, at the Board of Education meeting. Audio comments will be allowed through the district's electronic platform. You just need to raise your hand on Zoom. Text-based comments will also be allowed through the district's electronic meeting platform. That would be in the form of the chat room on Zoom. The presiding officer will direct the board secretary designee to manage public participation as follows. All participants will enter the electronic meeting platform muted. Participants will be called on individually by the presiding officer or board secretary to initiate their comment. Participants must abide by the Board of Education Policy 0167. They range from inappropriate or disruptive comments. The public comment section is limited to 3 minutes each. The presiding officer may interrupt or warn and/or terminate the participant's ability to communicate his or her statement if it is deemed inconsistent with the policy. And we ask that you put your name and address, or at least street, on the record when you speak. With that, we have public comment emails.
We do. So we do have 3 questions in the Zoom chat. We do not have any via the email. So in terms of, from what Ms. Freeman just said, anyone that wishes to participate via Zoom audio, just raise your hand and then we'll call on you after we go through the Zoom chat questions. So the first question from Drew and Christopher. What does it mean to table the facilities use policy? Does that mean the facilities may not be used by outside users until at least the second meeting in January?
The short answer is yes. For any active sports or active rentals, I think the only thing that's being rented right now is for church purposes.
Next question, 2 questions by username Jen. The first one is it true students will go full remote November 30th to January 19th, and why?
The answer to that is correct. And at the beginning of the meeting, both the board president and myself spoke to that. I will go over again. Over the last 11 weeks, we've seen a statewide rise in cases from a few hundred a day to approximately over 4,000 cases and growing. Throughout this time, the procedures and protocols we put in place have mitigated school day spread. Unfortunately, the last 2 weeks have led to an exponential increase in contact tracing, quarantining, and positive cases in our school community. As I said earlier, as it stands right now, we have approximately 60 staff members, meaning administration, custodians, bus drivers, teachers are on quarantine, as well as over 50 children, which is creating an environment where we cannot effectively educate in school in a safe manner. And in order to mitigate the spread of COVID, the decision was made to go to remote until January 19th. There was also discussions on that January 19th date, rather than have to come back in and come back out in order to give people time to plan for the next month and a half with the Thanksgiving break and the winter recess break built in. The decision was made not to start and stop and open back up on January 19th for the hybrid model.
Second part of the question, or second question from Jen as well. Have more cases been reported in the schools to move our students to all virtual?
Absolutely. In the last 2 days alone, we're currently contact tracing and quarantining well over 10 individuals. Just as an added, when the state went to high risk in most counties, including Monmouth, school districts were also tasked from the health department with doing the contact tracing, which has also played a part in all of this as well.
Jen said thank you for explaining. And that concludes the chat questions. And I do not see anyone with their hand raised for public comment representative.
Zach, can you take us?
Can you take us to the votes on any action items, please?
Yes, we'll start off with the curriculum instruction. Ms. Rayburn?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Ascoli?
Yes.
Ms. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Montone?
Yes.
Ms. Osborne?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Thank you. Special Services, Ms. Rayburn?
Yes.
Ms. Ascoli?
Yes.
Ms. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Montone?
Yes.
Ms. Osborne?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Personnel, Ms. Rayburn?
Yes.
Ms. Ascoli?
Yes.
Ms. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Montone? Ms. Osborne?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Thank you. Policy, Ms. Rayburn?
Yes.
Ms. Ascoli?
Yes.
Ms. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Montone? Ms. Osborne?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
And before I take the roll call on finance, I just forgot to read the walk-in into the record. I'll just read it really quickly. Number 11, transportation agreement. Be it resolved that the transportation agreement is hereby approved in the matter of PR and TR on behalf of ZR and DR versus Manawan Avenue Regional School District Board of Education. And the board president is authorized to execute a written transportation agreement memorializing the terms agreed upon by the parties. Ms. Rayburn?
Yes.
Ms. Ascoli?
Yes.
Ms. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Montone? Ms. Osborne?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any unfinished business from any board member that anybody would like to bring up? Any new business anybody would like to bring up? The only new business I would like to address is I want to acknowledge that we just finished the first marking period. Normally, there are some really cool things that we're able to do. I don't want to completely forget about them, but we have people who have been given their letters for National Honor Society. I would congratulate those. I would congratulate any child who's made honorable for the first time. I would like to take the time to congratulate any high honorable student who's made high honorable. Congratulations to all those who have had those milestones, although celebrated somewhat in isolation. At some point, we will make good on all of this, and everybody will have their their hot chocolate for their honorable breakfast. And we will make good on this. And I want people to believe that and know it to be true. Does anybody have any other new business?
I just want to say thank you to all the teachers that we have in our district that are doing a great job. As everybody knows, I have 4 children in the district, so I just want to say thank you for our teachers and our administrators who are doing a great job, and we made it to Thanksgiving, which is very thankful. And it's not a small feat, you know, it's a very important thing to understand that a lot of times the decisions that need to be made, it's not easy. And what I've learned is that, you know, we always want to in the best interest of our children in the district, whether we have children here or not. It's in the best interest of the children, and we just want to know, let you know, them know, the staff know that we support them in this endeavor. So I thank you all.
Mrs. Scholl?
Yes, actually, it's very similar to Ms. Osborne. I just wanted to thank the people in this room, the administration, the staff, the students, and the parents. It has not been an easy year, and I know a lot of people are working extremely hard right now. And we're trying to make it the best and safest we can be for everyone involved. And a lot of us on this board actually have children in the school system and who have been coming into the schools every day, and we really, really, really want things back to normal. The way I'm thinking about this is it's just a small pause, and we will come back stronger. So, thank you. And I do think the staff and students really do need each other, so I think as much as a community that we can work together, the better.
Thank you. Are there any public comments relating to additional matters that are not on the agenda?
We do not have any new comments on the chat, and I don't see anyone with a raise, with a hand raised, so we're good.
Okay, with that, I take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
That's not,
I'll motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving.